Hey everybody, welcome to Sou Sou. As you get settled in, I'll let you know that you're in for a great show today, featuring some of my favorite local artists with a guest host, talking about music, talking about life. They'll be sharing their music and they'll be holding amazing conversations around the idea of songcraft, the intersections of queer identity and cultural heritage in pop. So you're in for a treat. Thank you once again for being here. As you know, we are a donation-run concert series. So we make money from your beautiful donations. And as in true Sou Sou fashion, as Alana has introduced to our community, the money that we receive goes into a pot and gets thrown back into the community wherever it's needed. And we have folks reaching out to us asking for help, and we give it, no questions asked. We seek out opportunities to donate, and we take care of our people. So if you need support as well, please contact us at sousoumusicseries@gmail.com, and we would love to help you, especially in these crazy times, these unprecedented times. You guys tired of hearing that yet? This episode of Sou Sou is a little bit different. Alana and I weren't able to get together to do our opening words. Alana, I miss you, but we're here, and you'll see there's a bunch more conversation to be had in this amazing episode. So, I'm going to be reading a couple notes, so don't mind my shifty eyes. As we begin this Sou Sou episode, we acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, and now the rightful home of many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We here at Sou Sou stand in solidarity with Indigenous people of Turtle Island, the people who have been here long before we called this place Canada, making those of us who are not Indigenous settlers and immigrants on this land. May we share Indigenous stories and celebrate Indigenous joy, stand up for Indigenous dignity and the right to thrive, while simultaneously reconciling with the genocide this country has built its history on. I'm here on May 30th, 2021, late at night in my home in Tekaronto. Our community recently received the devastating news that the souls of 251 Native children were found buried in a former residential school in Kamloops, BC. I hold deep sorrow and rage towards our government for not showing any remorse or respect for these young sacred lives, as they were taken while these children were at school, where their parents thought they were safe and being taken care of. I stand for the prosecution of living residential school staff, nuns, and priests. These murdered lives deserve justice, accountability, and respect. We should not speak of residential schools as a problem of the past, as the final school was shut down in 1996, and the Canadian government continues to pretend like it didn't happen and as though it isn't part of our history. I'd like to take a moment of silence right now to pay our respects to the young lives murdered and taken from us, and for the families that this loss is affecting. Let's take a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you for taking this time. Please continue to talk about this with family and friends and people who don't know about the history of this country. It's very important. We mourn with you, and we send a lot of love and support to our Indigenous community, friends, and family. We will be donating funds to Indian Residential School Survivors Society. Please check them out. We'll add information if you'd like to add more donations to that cause. They do a lot of amazing work. Thank you for holding space for this. There's a really beautiful episode of Sou Sou to come. We really hope you enjoy, and we hope that you take care. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lydia. And thank you. Yeah, you, talking to you. Thanks for joining us here at Sou Sou number, I don't even know what. I think we're at Sou Sou number 8 right now. And whether you are here for the first time or you have been here from time, welcome. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. Sou Sou is the little gem that could. It's a real basic concept. All we do is we bring people from different backgrounds, different art forms, different perspectives together. Through music and conversation, we see what happens. That's it. In the past, we've had Beverly Glenn Copeland in conversation with Jeremy Dutcher and Khadija Mbao about being Black and Indigenous, training in classical music. We spoke to 11-year-old singer-songwriter Amina Rose out of Kingston, Jamaica. And more recently, we heard from Bambi photographer Jorian Charlton and Miss Milano about Blackness and how we take it for granted in music, learning about the blues history of metal and the fact that, hello, grunge was started by a Black woman. It could be a little uncomfortable checking yourself in public and, quite frankly, excruciating to challenge yourself. And that's the risk you take when you bring different people together, and you just have to find out what you don't know in the moment. But based on past Sou Sous, it's such a delicious feeling to make realizations together too, you know? And all of them are anchored by vibes. So whatever discomfort we feel is soothed and salved with some lovely, lovely, lovely music. And that's what we're gonna do today, is bring you conversation and music, but we're doing it in a different way. Today, we're doing something different where we're bringing artists together whose sounds and perspectives we might actually put together. They're all Black, queer, pop-ish, R&B-ish, all genres and identifiers that we may think make sense together. But in true Sou Sou fashion, we wanted to find out what we don't know. We wanted to dig a little bit more into the process of artists like James Baley, of Paris Unltd, and Desiire, to find out what were the moments, who were the people, what were the practices that fed into the sounds that we see today. But I didn't feel like the one to host this conversation, and Lydia had as much curiosity as I did. So we thought that we would do some listening and learning alongside you. And to do that, to replace us as hosts, we went back into the Sou Sou vault and invited one of our, I mean, they're all our favorite, quite frankly, but one of our favorite Sou Sou performers who we felt could hold this conversation, be a part of it, given their own musical backgrounds, and also their deep, freakish knowledge of pop culture just felt perfectly suited. So it's with great pleasure and excitement. I've got like this level excitement. By the end of the conversation, I'm gonna have like this level of sweat excitement. That's how excited I am about this conversation. Without further ado, we would like to welcome our guest host for today's Sou Sou, Flex. So Lydia, our guest of honor, Flex, is in the building, and by in the building, I mean in the square, in the Zoom chat.
What? So excited. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We had to have you back after that last performance. I feel like we didn't dig into the conversation as much time-wise, but we know that you have so much more to say. So excited to learn more about you in this conversation, but also more about all of these artists. Flex, since that last Sou Sou performance, what have you been up to musically, in life? What have we missed?
Ooh, okay. So right now I'm trying to get videos together for my EP Flex with Benefits. That's I kept saying it's going to come out in the spring, but spring's almost done. So it might be pushed back a little later. We're going to see where that goes. I've also been putting together some performances. One I'm really excited about is the one I'm going to do for Pride Live, on Saturday, June 26th from 4 to 5 p.m. I don't know when I'm slotted. You're going to have to come and see. I have a song on the Flex of Benefits EP that I'm going to perform that I've never performed before. So make sure to be there. And other than looking more and more fabulous, getting some sun.
Are you a sun bunny? You love the sun?
I love the sun. I'm trying to get that melanin back, you know? I feel like the melanin deprived seasons for have, you know, dried me out and made me a little ashy. So I'm just trying to, you know, fill in the creases.
I love how you say this as you're like literally glowing right now.
Literally.
Just, like popping. Okay, so Lydia talked about how joy has been consistent across your performances. I was sharing how effervescence and openness has come through in all your performances on recording and live. What can we expect on this record coming up? Will we be witnessing some more of that joy? Are you taking us into darker, heavier places sonically and thematically? What's coming up for Flex?
That's a really great question. I think for this EP, it is going to be very joyous. I really am focusing on what makes me happy and the pleasure of everything. You know, Flex Pleasure, it could have been named that too. Pleasure Flex, I don't know. These subtitles. And so with the EP, I'm really excited about it because I feel there's a sense of innocence that I'm returning to. Very much, I feel like there are songs about sex, flex, sex, it all rhymes. However, there's definitely an innocent view of it, whereas I think later, I want to take you on a dark ride. So,
I mean, this is just making me more curious. I mean, you don't have to tell me now. I'm just gonna wait for the music. But how does innocence show up, and how does that interact with your pleasure? I'm curious to know, you know, when we listen to this music, which of these sounds makes Flex happy? Just excited to follow you and see where you grow to. So thank you. Yeah. I feel like, oh my God, today in the shower singing Flex, time to have Flex. Do you know that song by
I
Buju?
don't know this song. The song sounds amazing.
What's actually Flex, time to have sex. Look how long you have the rude boy, right? But I was just changing it to Flex, time to have Flex. Like, it's time to have you as part of the conversation. I just feel like your name is suitable for it's just so musical or so lyrical, you know, and just hearing Lydia say Flex time. How is that not like a fucking tune? Flex time.
Everything, flex time, flex space.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I do want to ask, like, what does our flex mean to you?
Ooh, okay. So, initially I came up with it using my birth name or dead name, Ryan. And so it is Ryan Flex. So flex is a term taken from R&B to say show off. So show your talent, show your money, you know, for example, like Jay-Z is always flexing on people, right? So for me, it's kind of like, you know, Ryan, show off your talent.
Oof. Yes.
It was really, I mean, I feel like that last Susie, you really showed off your talent, because it's not just the music, but it's you as a person and your energy and just how open you are. You're just so effervescent, you know. It's such a beautiful thing to witness and be in the presence of. Yeah, so you flexing. Yeah. Okay.
And I gotta say, like, having seen Flex in different spaces, Sou Sou, at Burdock before the lockdown, which was an amazing show. Was that in 2019?
That was 2019.
Wow. And then at I'm not sure specifically which rally it was, but it was one of the BLM rallies last summer.
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth. which Flex was on the back of a pickup truck performing and bending off of it and singing, and I was just like, this human can perform in any space, like, and just take it all up and be interactive. And I just love watching you perform so much.
Oh, thank you. I love performing for you. So
Just to put you on the spot. We're like, we love you. You're like, yes, yes, yes.
Like if pleasure activism, the book, the movement, had a face to it, it would be our Flex. Okay? That's
oh
where
my
I'm
God,
at with it.
say that.
Okay, so we're having our own love-in, but we want to extend this out to the artists. Today we have Paris Unltd, Desiire, James Baley, and I know we all have been resonating with different aspects of their music. But Flex, starting to you, I'd be curious to know what comes to mind, what feelings come to mind, or thoughts come to mind when you hear Desire sound.
Okay, so I wrote it down. Are you ready?
Yes.
When I listen to Desire's music, I hear house, I hear neo soul, I hear Afrobeat, but I also hear pop, rap, and funk. So with his recent releases, I find him exploring his Congolese side, bringing in French and English in a way that's unexpected yet effortless. There's a boundlessness to the work that seems less concerned with genre and more with timelessness and what feels good right now. All of that. Okay.
All of that, all of it.
Wow.
There's such freedom in that description to touch on all those sounds, but like you say, be boundless and do it in a way that's effortless and desire consistently across genres. A hard thing to do. And that's something I'm interested in hearing in the conversations today is I think with all of these artists, it's easy to take for granted their artistry and that like deep connoisseur sense of the word because they're so stylistic, and so they could really rest on their image, and that enough is compelling. And then they have these beautiful voices. But I want to know what were the moments, who were the people, the sounds that influenced Desire's sonic fluidity or the styles that we're seeing. And yeah, I'm excited to dig into that. For me personally, I want to hear that from James Baley, specifically from a vocal arrangement perspective. James is an artist who I've performed with as part of the Queer Songbook Orchestra, and someone whose voice, we're musical kindreds in the sense you can hear that we grew up in the church. You can hear the distinct gospel influence that segued into R&B. The church tends to be kind of like a farm team or a recruitment place for R&B and soul singers. That's a very common story, right? But I don't think that James is a common soul and R&B artist. When I hear his vocal arrangements, especially on Savior, there's a moment where it sounds like he's responding to himself like a broken opera. I want to understand, who taught him how to not just sing, but how to understand how to use the voice as an instrument. I feel like I know his story, but I don't know his process. I wonder if he even knows how impressive he is. I'm curious to hear more about him.
Likewise. And then we have Paris Unltd, who was an artist that Luca, as a part of the Sou Sou team, has been pushing for since Sou Sou started. So I think it's really cathartic to have Paris here with us and to hear this story and to dig in deeper. Paris was a new artist for me to dig into in a contrast to Desiire and James, who I know really well. But listening to Paris's music, I personally, I really love the Spotify blurb on Paris because it's just this sweet nugget. So it's like a lighthearted and luxurious perspective on laid back, hyper pop, gender fluidity, and feeling soft. Suburban boy based in Toronto. And I just think that I think that softness is becoming more a part of our conversation and narratives, especially within gender fluidity, which is so important because I think that hyper anything, masculinity, femininity, you know, all of these things, it's just like, it's too aggressive. And I think balancing that with the softness that especially Paris brings in songwriting, in humor. So the singer songwriter meets pop meets, you know, I do throw R&B in there, but that can be up for discussion too, because, you know, once you're a Black Indigenous person of color and you make music, it's like with a flavor of R&B, you know, and it's like
Flavor.
sometimes that's not an ingredient. It's like it's straight up just pop. So I do hear pop predominantly in Paris's music as well as singer-songwriter, because I feel like there's some guitar playing at the bones of each song. So curious to hear if that is the case and what their process is as well. So yeah, very excited. Oh yeah, and they have a recent release, Level Point Zero, that I've been digging into as well, that I'm sure you guys will talk about today.
There's so much to dig into with these artists who are much more multifaceted than I'm sure that we even know. It's nice to have a guest host. We get to learn. We get to sit back and take it in with the rest of you. So without further ado, shall we get into this conversation and get to know these artists?
I'm into it. Are you into it?
I'm into it.
Ready. I'm ready for the journey.
Hosting a conversation between Desiire, Paris Unltd, and James Baley. Here's our wonderful baby, our Flex.
What's going on? Hi.
Hi. Hi.
How are you all feeling? This lipstick is giving me everything that I need and more. Talk about it.
Period.
We love our Fenty, you know.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's the chain for me. It's the chain. Come on.
The
Yeah.
chain? Okay. We got the chain too. Trying to get a bit of like throwback to Jamaican culture, but like a steampunky
Okay,
vibe.
what?
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah.
We're watching it all.
Yeah. How y'all doing today? Y'all seem lit up, glowing. The sun is peeking in from different angles. Paris got it from the side, you got it from the front. Okay.
You getting it from above, right there.
From above,
A little skylight. Woo.
Yeah.
Oh, I think James is connecting.
Ooh, connecting the audio.
Oh, hello. Oh, hello.
Come on now, background.
Yes, ma'am. Get into
What
the
is going
background.
on?
Oh, really? You're so cute.
Oh.
Boobs. Okay, girl. No, I have like no lip balm on. I am like a whole mess. I just got home from work.
Oh, you just
Meanwhile,
worked?
her face is sitting. Watch her. Looks a mess. Face is sitting. Body snatched. Let's talk about it. Yes.
Call it out. Call it out.
Congrats on the new single, James.
Pardon?
Congrats on the new single.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
How are you feeling?
I feel really good about it. I feel really, really good about it. You know, I finally feel like, you know, like in the same room as you guys. You know what I mean?
Hold on.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
What are we talking about?
I'm so serious. I am so serious. Wait, did I just swipe? There we go. Now I'm in the group. I can see all of you.
Hi.
But but yeah, like I'm in the same room as all of you guys who have been releasing music. Such amazing music.
Listen, you sound incredible. You look incredible. The video, the visuals, everything is just congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Of course.
It's been a
Y'all
journey.
are releasing stuff. I feel like Paris released the EP. Desiire, you released Motema and Starlight. So this is all this year.
This year. You too, Miss Thing. Let's not forget.
Yep.
Okay.
See,
I
okay.
didn't forget. I'm not gonna lie.
You're like,
I feel like this is what it is. You know, we're all working and we're all just actively like creating our stories and just like figuring things out. You know, I feel like as queer artists, like we don't have a roadmap. You know what I'm saying? We just like we just do, like, we're just making things up, you know, and just eating and just really nailing it. So I love you guys. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah. And right back at you, you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Just because I'll die on this hill, but just the way that you've inspired me personally, just the way you've modeled yourself, and kept it pushing. And clearly, because like it doesn't feel like there's any precedent when it comes to like, what you're doing, Desiire. So I just want to shout that out because I think it's amazing.
Thanks, Paris.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
Okay.
I'm like, oh my God.
This is the beauty. Like, we're all such fans of each other. Like, we're all such fans of each other. And like, you know, we're just all about it. You know, I'm going to shut up now.
Oh, no, do not. Never.
Maybe.
Let me.
Well, no, that's actually like a really great note to start on because, you know, I've been fans of, I know Desiire and James's work, and I'm just getting into your work, Paris. Please forgive me.
No.
I mean, if you don't want to forgive me, that's also cool. Like, I'll see you on the streets. But, you know, I've been a fan for a long time, and I'm going to first get into a bit of Deseire's work. Now, I've written a little something because, you know, I'm a writer too. Y'all know I also write for Your Homo. So, you know, I always, when I express my sentiments, you know, I do it for you to feel, okay? So I like want to start things off by talking about the music. Each of you has new music this year that both complements and challenges the pop landscapes of Canada and out in the world. And Desiire, I want to start with you because I've been a fan of your music since 2015 when you were on Desiire.
Ooh, listen.
Come on.
Name was just so extra. Like, why?
To be honest, I feel like it fit with the times that were like, this was SoundCloud era, okay? Folks were doing Lord something, Lord Savior. They were doing, you know, Monsieur, like they were doing the most.
No vowels, like. It's like, who needs an A? Who needs the I?
Who needs a name? Just make something up.
Okay.
Go back to
it
Prince.
was Wheel of Fortune, essentially. No one wanted to buy the vowel. And at the time, I think you were in Montreal when you were making.
No, I was actually in Toronto.
You were where? You were in Toronto?
Yeah.
What? Wow, I just made a whole narrative for you that didn't exist. But I'm sorry.
Let's continue. I want to see that narrative.
Well, you know, I used to do a campus radio show called Rainbow Radio, and I would play your music at the time, and you always had a voice. And I told you this. I remember we had met at Poetry Jazz Cafe, and I think I told you that night that your voice reminded me of Bilal.
Ooh, yes.
Wow.
Wow.
Listen.
You just hit the nail on the head with that one. I hear that. Yes.
I see it.
Man, I love Baley. Like, I'm such a struggle body when it comes to falsettos. You know what I mean? Like going up there. And as soon as I started listening to him, I was like, okay, let's try it. But that is, thank you.
Well, thank you. Because, like, honestly, I mean, for anyone that's watching or listening right now, check out Bilal's Soul Sister if you want to know what I mean. Because your voice just had, like, this smooth yet gravelly texture to it. It felt like, I love wine, so it felt like a medium body red that had that kind of like leathery feel to it, where I was like, it's like dark fruit. I love it. So
as she is.
As what?
I said as she is.
Right? Okay.
Come on, dark fruit.
Dark fruit. So there's like this groundedness, this earthiness, but this cool sensuality in your work that felt spiritual. So when you released your single Motema in late April this year, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Can you?
Yes, you got it right.
Oh God! Oh. Said Motema and I'm sweating. Okay. I recognize this was a kind of remix of your song Mind, Body, and Soul from 2018. Production-wise, it's evolved. You've revived it with this Afro beat and this tighter groove that moves away from the electroacoustic sound of the original. Why in 2021 did you feel the need to give it this Afrobeat upgrade?
It's funny. So the story of the song is a bit interesting. So I was getting ready for my first show, like my first headline show. And I kind of sat back and I was going through all the songs that I really wanted to do. And Mind, Body, and Soul was definitely up there. But because I had done the original version so many times, I was like, let's switch it up and see what's what. And I was working with a producer at the time who had sent me this track a bit ago that I was sitting on. And for some weird, odd reason, I opened the file and the track started playing. And I just started humming to the melody from Mind, Body, and Soul to the record. And I was like, oh, this kind of fit. And then brought it to the band because I played with a band at the time and we did a live rendition of it. And it kind of just stuck around. And earlier this year, I was like, okay, well, I have to put it out and see what's what and see what the vibe is. And kind of just did that. And I think it's, I love all my songs and, that song in particular feels so reminiscent of that particular time. And I kind of wanted to switch it up a little bit and make it current for the girls.
Okay.
Feed the family.
Yeah. I felt like you took it from when I hear Mind, Body, and Soul, like I feel like I'm on the beach and it's like me and my lover and like, we're just, hanging out. Because it has like that water drop thumb snap in there. Like, and I was like, it gave me that almost like SWV rain feels.
Ooh, talk about it. Yeah.
Let's talk about it. Okay. Yeah. Right? I'm here with the references, girls. You better get ready.
Here.
But I felt with Motema, I feel like you are on the stage singing at this beach. This is like a spring break occasion. I'm in Florida, baby.
Listen, let me tell you, because vacations is expensive. We'll say that. You know what I mean? So if we can be there in our minds in the song, we don't gotta pay for it.
Live the fantasy.
Okay. Live the fantasy. I love that.
Always.
But y'all, please do pay for it. It's 99 cents.
Period.
Your guard down with me. You ain't gotta worry about a thing, no. I won't ever ask for too much or take up too much of your time, no. We can be like Bonnie and Clyde. Off-road never kill the vibe, no. Smoke on some trees, feeling nice. No worries, never asking. I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and soul. Ain't no need to ask reasons why, yeah. My love is all true, never lie, no. We can let our oceans collide. Deep sea, underwater life, yeah. You and I together as one. Let's jump the gun and run to the sun, yeah, yeah. Don't you ever be afraid of the future, no. Cause I got you, cause I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and mind, body, and I could be your mind, body, and soul. Mind, body, and mind, body, and soul. Something sweet come my way, something new come my way. Here you are, ain't no way, you manifest in this way. Glory God made me stay far away from this pain. My love for you never stray. Cause I could be your mind, body, and soul. 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 Said I could be your mind, body, and soul. I could be your mind, body, and soul. I could be your mind, body, and soul. Yeah, yeah.
I want to move on to you, James. For everyone who doesn't know, James and I are best friends. James, is that still true? I want to make sure. I want to check in.
Yes.
Okay. You gotta check in on your best friends, y'all. Sometimes, you think you're best friend, you're like, oh, we're best friends, and then you're like, wait.
Oh my God! Imagine.
I would have lived for the chaos.
Like give you that Beyonce shade. It's like we are back. I am the second lead singer.
Yes.
No, yes, but yes, them both are flex. We are best friends. We have been friends since what, grade 7?
Grade
Whoa.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go way back. Where we used to go to a school called Queen Elizabeth of the Arts back in 2012, 2002, 2001.
Whoa. Your
Yeah.
friendship,
Yeah.
friendship is older than me.
What did you say?
Oh my God.
Not really. Almost. It's probably like it's an old friendship.
It's an old friendship. The friendship is, has gone through many iterations. And something fans may not know. Oh yeah, so I guess I want to say, like, we've been also singing together for a long time. For y'all that don't know, we had this music ISU. Remember ISUs?
Come on, music units.
And
Music.
we sang Christina Aguilera's Beautiful
Mm-hmm.
as a duet.
Right, because we connected to that song as young, queer children. And it still resonates with us today,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very that. And something fans may not know about you is you came out with a gospel EP called Listen back in 2015. And on the title track, I could really hear your sense of choral arrangement. There are these beautiful harmonies with this early 2000s future R&B sensibility that reminded me of Brandy and Enya.
Okay.
Yes. Come on, Princess.
Yes.
Ooh.
Enya all the way. And you knew Brandy was always on the playlist, so.
At some point, I want to talk about Enya and R&B, but we'll get there. Maybe not in this combo. But anyway, you have such a way of evoking emotion with the sound of your voice before even singing a lyric. And fast forward to your song Savior, which was released May 7th. Only 2 weeks ago, you brought back some of those sensibilities. Savior is like dark in the verses, industrial in the drums, militaristic in the groove. And then you open up to this beautiful, uplifting chorus singing. And I can't sit here and wait for an answer with this heady counter melody in the background. How do you make something that's like gospel and like pop sound so modern and so cool?
Well, I think, working with producers that also are in that same headspace. But yeah, I feel like that song actually transformed a couple of times before the version that you hear on all these streaming platforms, the one that was released. And it was very much just like, it's not there yet. It's not there yet, and me having to fight that feeling of like not wanting to push people too much, especially when, I'm not a producer, but I know what I hear in my mind, and I know the image that I want to show, or the image that I see in my head that I want people to hear and feel in the music. And you actually hit me when they hitting the nails. But like you did speak to that really, really truthfully and very correct with when you're talking about the military driving energy, and then that uplifting thing, and because I wanted the listener to feel that, with the story that I'm telling, that they're walking and they're very directly speaking to whoever they need to speak to. So I'm speaking to whoever I'm speaking to in this way where it's just like, I am moving through a wall and you're not stopping me, because I can't stop. I can't wait and knock at a door and just wait for it to be opened. We have to push through, speaking to the whole piece that even Desiire said about, just making it up as we go along, like carving out our own path. As a part of that, it's like we need to just be very stern and strong in our thoughts and what we want for our lives, and just be like, you know what, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to move forward. And that's where you hear that in the chorus, which is like, and I can't sit here and wait for an answer, or the second chorus, which I can't sit here and wait for a savior. And even just the way that I'm singing it, it's like I'm singing it in a very like somewhat apologetic way, but also unapologetically. It's like I'm sorry, but I'm not, and that's where I was really trying to push with that. And I'm very happy that the producer, Adrian, known as Slow Jams, was able to take in all of that information that I had shared with him. And I was like, this is how I want it to sound. I want it to sound like I am, marching along the seaside with my Black queer brethren in our white cloaks, just ready to just, take these shackles and whip whip any of the opposing forces with this message. And he was like, I see that, I hear that. These are, let's start this, And I even had to change the way that I delivered the verses, because I think before it was more just like drawn out notes, because I thought that would hold up. And I was like, after a while, I'm like, no, I think I need to change this so that it feels more honest and it catches people, instead of like, I wonder. It was like, I wonder. Like I'm telling you something, and versus like trying to capture you in a sound, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that's not me saying too many things, being too long-winded. Yeah, it's like it was a negotiation between me and Slow Jams, where it finally landed in the right place.
Yeah. No, that's really beautiful, because I think, when I compare it to your EP Roads, where there is more of that dream poppy feel and more, when I think about Paper Planes, it's definitely more of like a mood and a texture. Whereas this one, it has the mood and texture, but there definitely is an incisive voice that is really here to announce itself. And that's something I really feel.
I wander to ocean skin and lay back to take it in. I wonder how far must I go till the end. Yeah. I see you through open eyes, the shadows I have brought to light. I discover the other side of love, and I can't sit here and wait for an answer. Open arms, patient to take me in, reaching for something that's not really there. When passion has faltered here, discarded like ash in wind, you collect the embers left of our love, but it's not enough, and I can't sit here and wait for a savior. Open hearts begging to take me in, bended knees dreaming for someone who cares. It's not enough, it's not enough. So I can't wait for a savior, no. Begging to take me in, dreaming for someone who cares.
Paris, I want to move on to you.
What?
I have to say this is our first time meeting, and I am in awe of you already. Okay. Now I've scoured the internet looking for your work. You released your first single, "Give Me Back," in 2018, and "Murder Me" back in 2019. Your titles are attention grabbing. They evoke a visceral response, especially when paired with the album art. Um, you play with textures on the Gimme cover, pairing a side by side image of what looks like a jacket with another image of a digitally treated mountain. On Murder Me, on the cover, you're sideways and you have a black eye while you're wearing what looks like a Raver's construction jacket and a hard hat. Y'all need to see these covers. I'm not kidding. Like, this is when we said album art, we said art. Okay.
Honestly, I feel like the description should be like on the art, just because those were such beautiful descriptions of the artwork. Thanks.
Hey, you know what? You just get in my DMs and be like, "Hey, I need this description," and I'll be like, "Boom." You know what?
Yeah, I have your email.
Yeah, there you go. Boom, boom, boom. There's attention to detail with your work, and there's the songwriting. And for me, I have an English lit background. I don't remember a lot, but I remember William Shakespeare, Sonnet 130, My Mistress' Eyes Are Nothing Like the Sun. And your writing is like that on loop. It is like playing with those details, like playing with expectations you feel that would come in a regular line, and just continuously flipping it on its head. And that's something that's carried through your work up until your most recent release, your EP, Level Zero. Congrats.
Thank you.
Okay. Come through. You're here, baby. Okay.
I've arrived.
Yes. I'm feverishly curious about your approach to songwriting and pairing it with visual art. Do you have a visual arts background? Do you write in non-musical forms like poetry and short stories? Tell me more.
Oh, I'm gonna try to answer that in a cohesive way, but I guess like the easiest way to start is that it's just like I'm trying to embrace the fact that what makes me me is not one specific amazing thing, but maybe just like a cluster of just attributes and adorations that I have for, you know, all these disparate things. So for writing, it really surprisingly, and as almost too on the head, like I through high school, I just genuinely hated Shakespeare. And it wasn't necessarily like me hating Shakespeare. It was just this weird, I just never found the way that we treated the text interesting in high school. But then when I came and, you know, I was doing a lot of theater classes, I just fell in love with, you know, Shakespeare is a text that you need to say aloud to appreciate it. And the more I was reading Shakespeare and the more you kind of learn about the ways in which you don't have to do a lot of work to make text meaningful, that was kind of where I was coming from with regards to lyricism, because I love writing lyrics. And yeah, I think that it's really interesting because like that shift happened with Vomit. Vomit was like the first time I was just like, okay, you know, if this is something that I love, then why not love it, not just adequately, but just, you know, when you love something, just go in it. So that was kind of where it came from. And with regards to the album covers, it was, you know, I guess it's just with all the artists that I grew up kind of loving, there was always like a visual aspect to it. I was really, really, really into Marina and the Diamonds growing up. Because I felt like she was doing this, like she was doing that same thing of like, there was always, she was subverting the expectation for, you know, she gave us the mean girl with Electra Heart, right? And she gave it to us so unapologetic, but behind all of that, you know, like the actual artist like is the nicest person in the world. And even before that, like I fell in love with the first album that she came out, The Family Jewels, and it was the wildest, like there was a mixture of baroque, whatever it is, with like there's so much ornamentation going on, and the lyricism. I think like there's one, like if I could get like a tattoo of lyrics, there's one line that sticks with me forever and ever, amen. But it's, they call him Hermit the Frog, he's looking for a dog. Did you find your bitch in me? Because you're a vomit of a socially. So like it was just like weird things like that where I was like, I don't understand what she's saying, but it's just like that when you say what you're thinking, it just hits, you know? So that's what I was going for.
Wow. I need to go back into Marina's work because my sister grew up with that work. My sister's 17, and so she grew up with Marina and the Diamonds. I've been more like, it's funny because like I got into Charlie XCX, which at the time when Charlie dropped True Romance, people were comparing her with Marina. But I know Marina just has like these baller lines like the ones you just mentioned, where you're like, you can take that one sentence and just like pull it apart because it's just so loaded, you know? And so, yeah, that's something that I'm really appreciative. But in your work,
Hi there, my name is Paris Unltd, and I'll be performing a song called Vomit off of my latest EP, Level 0. You're so sweet, it makes me want to vomit. I'm not a creep for wanting you inside me. You're so cool, but I've seen even colder. As if a mountain dreams of getting sober. Don't trust the polls, I think they're overrated. I think it's cool, you know my Twitter handle. But rainy days aren't here to stay forever. 11 years will fuck the ozone layer. It's not the love that makes me sick. It's just a case I can't commit. Just a case of pride and wit. And if you're free, then just say no. But we're not free, so can't say no. I think it's sad they find you slightly awkward. I think it's rash they find me awfully forward. But who knew jokes could be so goddamn backwards? You look so stoked, but we all saw your ass crack. I may be bold, but that don't mean I'm brave. I want to hear a one who'll come and save a broken heart from turning in the grave. Oh, God forbid I die a bitter death. It's not the love that makes me sick. It's just a case of pride and wit. Just a case of can't commit. And if you're free, then just say no. But we're not free, so can't say no. And you, oh, oh, oh. To you, oh, 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 yeah, yeah, oh, oh. To you, oh, 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 oh. It's all a game. This next one is called Ill Will. They brought me in cause I took away the heat. I was cold enough to take away the beat. Oh, I had vibes weak enough to kill an army. The strives never kept me from disarming. A ticket out, that's what I was. Yes, a ticket out, and all because yes, I know I wanted to be strong, but I love it when I'm weak. But it really hurt me. It really hurt me. 'Cause in there of this is rudimentary. You call the shots and I agree, but now that I'm free from my misery, you come back claiming that you own me. I'm not gonna take any of this. I'm not gonna take any of your. Now that I'm here, I'm setting shit all straight. It really hurt me. It really hurt me. 'Cause in your eyes, I never stood the chance at running, the chance at running up. It really hurt me. It really hurt me. 'Cause in your eyes, I never stood the chance at running, the chance at running up.
I want to switch gears real quickly. I want to go back into these lyrics. It's like, woo! Let me tell you. I mentioned earlier that each of your works challenge the pop landscape in Canada, and I say this because pop music over the last 11 years has been so vast yet tight-knit. Yes, we have artists that have shaped the sound of pop to what it is today. We have Drake, we have Bieber, we have The Weeknd. We also have Alessia Cara, Carly Rae Jepsen, and Jessie Reyes. Not to say any of these artists mentioned before do not rep where they're from, but recently we've seen this turn to artists who are very rooted in their heritage. Jeremy Dutcher won a Polaris for his album Centurion, the Wollastock Language. Kavaya Mighty won a Polaris the following year for centering her Jamaican heritage and status as a Black woman in Canada. And Lita Pimienta and Backwash are also two others really pushing the pop landscape. And I'm curious how important it is for you to rep your heritage in your work. Anybody can take this one, and please inform me, teach me.
James, I hate you.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, James, what do you got?
It's like, you know, I feel like as I'm growing and like I continue just to create more honestly, because I feel like from my first EP to now, it's like before I was just like, everyone should be happy, you know, you have support, but be happy, you know what I mean? And that's just what I was wanting to be, is just positive, and that's not a thing that we're gonna have low periods, and those are okay. But like now it's like, I feel like with this new single, I'm being a little more honest with what I want in my life and putting that in my music. But it's like while I was working on this work, I was also now being like, I really want to like start working with like producers from like the Caribbean producers and Caribbeans who have like, or producers that have Caribbean heritage and are very connected with that. And now I've been like more inspired by like artists like Bambi, who's really like going back to Jamaica and like searching for those sounds. And so I haven't actually thought that it was important for me to do that, with a lot of my inspirations being like Bjork and Enya and Alanis Morissette and, you know, Sarah McLachlan, you know, but then also being inspired by like the Clark sisters and you know, Rioton, who make choral music, you know. So it's like, although I wanted to like kind of jump away because I heard so much of Jamaican music and Caribbean music in the household and in church, and church is, you know, an inspirational place, but at the same time I have a conflict with that. So it's like the willingness to make music with an intention of putting in my heritage and like musical influences from Jamaica into my music was not something that I wanted to do. I wanted to try to carve out my own path by going totally left. You know, I wanted to be Bjork versus like Sean Paul. I don't know. I'm
No,
being so,
I hear you. That's a very real,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
I feel I'm inspired by artists that do that. I'm inspired by artists more now that do that, like Nakane.
Mhm.
You know, like he talks about his struggles with religion and being South African, and you know, and being queer, and also just like it. What's that one song he wrote? Like New Brighton.
Mhm.
New Brighton is it's a pop track. It's a very cool pop tune, but it's about like I really hope I don't butcher this meaning, but it's about him walking around his like where he's from, or that area, and noticing all the monuments of colonial, you know, folks that are just there. But then also he's like, I'm not seeing monuments about like that represent my people, and that's what the song is based on. And me hearing that and being like, wow, like I want to actually know more about my Jamaican roots. I want to know more so that I can speak to these things, you know, and in that need and that want is within me. I just haven't yet reached that place.
Justin Trudeau, if you're listening, we need a heritage trip at the end of this lockdown. You know, my taxes, the construction's
Okay.
not getting done, baby. So can we just
Okay. Listen, my heritage is
Eglinton is still under construction. I just need the trip. Stop the money. Just give me the trip.
like take my money out of the Eglinton line so I can go back to
Okay.
Jamaica.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think
absolutely.
it's really, but I'm glad you talked about Lido, because I love
Mm-hmm.
her record. Like that record is insane. Even though I don't understand the lyrics really, I've gone in to actually, I did my 1-2 Google translate of the
Mhm.
lyrics. I know sometimes Google butchers it all, but I understood more of even the song Nada.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, this woman talking about how her child is taking her essence from her nipple or something, and I'm like, that is hilarious, but so beautifully crafted, you know. And she went in search of those sounds,
Mm.
you know, from like those heritage sounds that she connected with, and wow, like well deserved for that Polaris award. But yeah, like it's music like that that's really now inspiring me to want to make that connection, and not be afraid to go towards my roots, to learn more about myself, because before I was afraid because I'm gay.
Mhm.
That was
I
very
want
much it.
I
And
want
that's
to
the
add something to that, and you know, I want to give one of the other two the mic for a bit. I was
Mhm.
going to say, it's so funny because in my household, I didn't get any Jamaican or Guyanese songs. I didn't grow up with soca. I didn't grow up with dance hall unless I went to my cousins or I went to your house. And so that was no, it was very real. And so it's funny because like you introduced me to the rave, which is like where I'm like in my artistry trying to re-explore. Um, I'm like, oh my god, you know, dubstep, jungle, drum and bass, because there's some drum and bass in Savior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that music, I was like, oh, it's like taking it across the waters, and like what happens in London when you have a bunch of folks who are diasporic and are trying to connect and they come together to make a sound. And you know, so that's something that's very interesting. Now, I wanted to shoot it over to either Desiire or Paris. I know with um, Paris, I was looking at your song Ill Will, and you have there's a rockabilly sensibility with that song for me. I immediately, for whatever reason, thought of Chris Isaac, and it brought me to this place where I was like, yeah, like if we even pull back further from like our current pop landscape, there's so many genres and things that we've worked through and have come to in different places. And I'm just curious, what your approach is. Because also, you're Paris Unlimited. So I was also curious about your name and like, how did this come about? So like, just lather me and all this like info I need to know.
Yeah. So the reason why I chose Paris Unlimited as a stage name is because at the time I was watching this anime called Fate Stay Night Unlimited Blade Works, right? And there were like these two characters, the antagonist and the protagonist throughout the story. I'm simplifying it, so like if you know the anime, please don't come for me. But
Daggers are waiting.
yeah, I like you got to watch out for these stay night stands. But what had happened, it was really interesting because there was this one character who had like access to basically every single weapon that had been created throughout the history of mankind. He had access to it, like, and he could, like, they belonged to him, and so he could just pull them out to the point where they were unlimited, right? But then the protagonist had this kind of like second rate power where he could just make these like shallow imitations of these things, right? And so it was just this really interesting thing of like unlimited blade works, where like this for every amazing thing this guy could make or could summon, like the protagonist could like make a somewhat decent copy of it. And it was like this really cool idea that I did, and it had this kind of superhero feeling to it. Video games are like a huge inspiration for like my aesthetics as well. Nier, the first Nier, and then Automata, obviously. I played it back in 2010. But yeah, just all of those things came together to give me a sense of I can reproduce myself as many times as I want to, through soundscapes, through visuals, through anything. And I had a friend, he's listening to all the new music, right? And he was like, oh, I kind of imagine Paris Unlimited as like a fictional character that kind of just moves throughout these like, sometimes contiguous genres and sometimes just like completely different genres. And it's almost like the devil from Cow and Chicken, where he would just like where the like he'd be a doctor one episode, then he'd be like a vet, like like all of that stuff. So it was kind of just that nature that I wanted to touch on. And like going back to trying to find a discourse around race, religion, culture. I was born in England. My dad's Nigerian. I grew up in South Africa. So it's like a clusterfuck of things, right? And
Their
so,
culture.
yeah, right. And so I'm full transparency. I think for this first EP, I fully was because like the EP represents almost like 3 years of like me when I came to Toronto. Like the EP is representing that up until the last song I had recorded, which was C2N, right? Which was, I think we finished in like late 2019. And so it represents all of that. But that was also like a time I was in like very intense conflict with what I thought of myself when I said like, oh, I'm African, I'm Nigerian, I'm South African. Like I was trying to avoid that. I wanted to kind of have this like kind of generic cosmopolitan vibe, just because I didn't like those spheres that I was in, and that was because there wasn't any. It didn't feel as if there was any place, and I'm learning now that's not the case. But it didn't at the time. It did not feel as if there was a place where I could be this, black, and also just myself. Even now, I'm like scared to say it, but like queer, right? And that's because of a crap ton of opposing things. But I think now I'm at a place where I'm realizing that my life is just so. I don't want to be angry with myself 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however many years down the line, and look at myself and say I wasn't doing what I had to do. I need to do what needs to be done. You know what I mean? So I can't speak for level 0 too much, but I do think that Ill Will, I'm happy that you mentioned it. Ill Will and even C2N, I would say, feel like a reflexivity starting to show itself. But yeah, thank you for listening to my TED Talk.
I actually wanted to ask, like, do you know about Afropolitanism?
No, that's the first time.
All right, y'all, I'm gonna do a quick Google search. I know this is probably out of the Sou Sou form, but you know what? We need this today, okay? Yeah, so Afropolitanism takes the idea of like cosmopolitanism. So just a quick recap. It's like a way of being in the world. When we say we're cosmopolitan, we're talking about it's kind of like a hospitality that we share amongst one another. And there's Afropolitanism, which I can't quite define very well, but definitely is a thing that I think would be useful here, especially for folks who, like even for myself, I didn't grow up in Africa, but I know I'm diasporic. But I still have imaginings of. I still have this idea of return, and would love to write about it, and figure out where I am in that. So I'm gonna just look for that. But Desiire, you have the song Starlight where you're singing in French. This is so cool. I think this is dope because you're singing in French and English and doing a bit of the Afrobeat in there too. And in Canada, it's interesting thinking of this like almost this grafting of the Congo on Canada in a way that's still bilingual and like really just blew my mind. So I would love to hear your piece on heritage and repping where you're from and how that functions in your music.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So, okay. So I'll start with this. I think that as queer people and as young queer people, heritage is a weird, strange thing, right? Because growing up, being queer, being gay, and being Black, and being African, or being Jamaican, it's like this doesn't happen, right? This doesn't happen, and I feel like in my music right now, one of the main things that I'm really trying to focus on is to just make this happen as much as possible. So much that sometimes it may not even make sense to me, but it's totally fine because this is me, right? I sit at the intersections of so many different things in life that it's literally impossible for me to just be one thing. You know what I mean? It's literally impossible for me to just make one type of music or to sing just in one language, and I've changed my bio in the past couple months on purpose because I really wanted to be able to see the kind of artist that I am, and to be an Afro queer artist, right? Because being queer is still illegal in a lot of countries in Africa, right? So for me to make music as a queer African person, it's like you're really trying to make this shit hard for yourself, aren't you? You know what I mean? And I feel like as queer artists, as up and coming queer artists, as independent queer artists, Black queer artists, we have to fight through so many things. It's mind blowing. You know what I mean? Like the average singer songwriter, has to think about, like telling their story, from like where they were born, and just like little simple steps. But for all of us, it's like there's so many layers that we have to unpeel, to the point where sometimes it feels like, yo, this isn't just music making. This is like I'm like building I'm like rebuilding myself through my music, and like, man, I just gotta say, like, we are all such interesting people. Like our stories are so interesting and so complex. And when, you know, when you put us in like in the music industry landscape, I feel like it just like it confuses people, you know. But one of the main things that we have to make sure that we do is to not confuse ourselves and to literally, James, like you said, we have to walk through these walls, bust these door opens, because a lot of people just don't get it. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, like for a lot of people, it's just like, whoa, like where do we even start with this artist? You know? And I feel like it's so important for us to be as specific and as like and as to the point as possible. You know? And to not be afraid to like reclaim our culture. You know what I mean? I used to be so afraid of like trying out Afrobeat music because I'm like, oh, I don't know, you know, like, you know, and it's funny. I remember when I was 19, you know what I mean? Just like when I was 19, going to Afrofest. And for those who don't know, Afrofest is, you know, it's pretty much like the African like caravan, right?
Yeah.
And I remember going there with a friend of mine, and just feeling so uncomfortable. I remember feeling so uncomfortable. I was walking around and I'm like, this is my culture. This is me. This is me, you know? But I remember just feeling so uncomfortable to the point where it's like 45 minutes later, I had so many looks on me and just so many names being thrown around. I left and didn't go back to Afrofest for years and years and years. You know what I mean? So really right now, what I'm trying to do with my music is just like me like mustering up the courage to go back to Afrofest and say, here we go, guys, take it all in. You know what I mean? And to not be afraid of our culture, because it's ours, you know, it is ours. You know, being African is, you know, is part, like, you know, I was born in Africa. You cannot take that away from me. You know what I mean? The church can't take that away from me. The government can't take that away from me. The music industry can't take that away from me. And, you know, just finding ways to like, just mix everything together, you know? I don't know if I answered the question, but yeah, that's how I'm feeling.
Oh, you answered the question. Okay. This was a test. You got an A+, okay?
Okay.
In Desiire.
The university, thank you so much for saying that.
In Desiire, I totally get what you mean. Because I remember going to Afrofest for the first time, and it's like, it's like once you step on the grass, you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
We're here. Yeah. And you hear the music and you know you connect with the music, but you're just like, I don't even want to pop my hip 1-2 ways because I feel like someone else is gonna.
Exactly.
You know, and you don't, because you know that feeling and you know it's so familiar and it's uncomfortable and you're like clinging to whoever you're with. Like I was with females and I'm just like, y'all are females, y'all are cool. Even if you're queer, you're cool. That was just my assumption. I'm like, I have to cling to you. And if I wanted to go to the porta potty, it's like I had to now again change the way that I navigated in the space. Like I had to.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, and I'm like, what am I doing? You know? And I guess in a way, it's like wanting to, even thinking about wanting to create any sort of reggae something or something cultural, adding some sort of little flavor to my music. I'm just like, you know what? I don't feel comfortable because that music still kind of makes me feel uncomfortable. But it's like, I want to do it to then live my truth, connect as I should and feel comfortable connecting with my heritage. And then also sharing that music with the public to show that it's like people like me come from this place and come from this culture and are making this music.
Exactly.
And it can be accepted, but even if it's not accepted, it's like, it's being made.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other people like me that are younger than me or older than me who feel the same way, who need to hear it. Like, and sometimes like, it's like, it does take you or me to release this stuff and to say this in order for other people who don't feel strong enough to then just concur and be like, yeah, actually, yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I just wanted to, so yeah, wow. You saying that, I was like, yep, I feel that.
Yeah.
So
And you
we're all
feel
going.
it all the time. You feel it all the time, you know, feel it all the time.
I think this is like several points. I wanted to cry, but I'm worried about my mascara smearing.
Don't do it.
You know, one goth teardrop for
No.
the Black queer babies, the Black trans babies. Yeah, listen, y'all, y'all don't know. That might be an album cover. You never know. But I wanna bring myself into this and talk about my journey. Like, it was so funny. So end of 2019, around the end of 2019, I went on a date and I'd said like this is a Black man I was seeing, and you know, I was like, you know, I didn't go to Caravana growing up because I was worried that I would get hurt, you know, and growing up again in a household that didn't play damn well. I remember James. So it's funny because like James, you mentioned this, right? So you and your brother went, and I remember I would stay in Mississauga, bored as hell. But because I couldn't go and I wouldn't be able to stay out that late, and there would be a huge kerfuffle in my household. And I didn't get to explain this all on the date, but immediately I got pegged as anti-Black. And it was a moment for me. I know, you can take it that moment to yeah. It was a moment, and it was like no, like it was once I said it, it was like, oh, you're anti-Black, but it was really frustrating because it was like you have to understand, coming from suburbia, when you're in Brampton and Mississauga, there isn't a Caravana, there isn't an Afro Fest. What we do get in that infrastructure is often a presentation at like a living arts center or a presentation um, in our school spaces. We don't get an outside public spatial celebration.
Like community celebration, right?
You know, that's big organizing activism work. You know, so you know this person had worked for these spaces, etc. For you know for creating spaces for Black queers. So I can see where they were coming from, having done this work for so long, but couldn't see me, the space that I'm designed for, coming into that being like, oh, like I didn't go because it wasn't there, you know, or I didn't feel like I could. So yeah, you know, I really appreciate Desiire and you, Paris, and James talking about sort of this bringing together of identity, this hybridity that is happening. That is like, you know what? And I think this is also what's so interesting because it's like y'all are singing in English, y'all are singing in pop forms in different ways, but bringing yourself and being like, okay, this is what it is now. And I want to talk about influence real quick. So I wrote something cute. Sometimes it's just that, you know. So I wrote, if I can read my writing, influences are very important. They say something about where we're from, what we grew up listening to, who was around us, and where we were born, and so much more. To me, they become a radical part of Black queer memory. In a world that's not made for Black queerness, the most radical thing Black queers can do is create because they create their world from memory.
Mm-hmm.
Based on the influences you mentioned, what do you think? I guess like y'all have already mentioned it, but like the influences that have resonated with you, why do you think they show up in your work? But we've already covered that question. But I do want to commend y'all for talking about where you're from, the memories, the things that are already proceeding, that, you know, whether they've come into your work fully or they're on the horizon, to know that it's there
Mm-hmm.
is brilliant.
Mhm.
I want to say y'all are brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I think likewise.
Oh yeah, and I love that. Well, being here with you all and listening to your music and like being inspired, like feeling inspiration myself from listening to your music, because I know it's like I'm not the only Black queer artist trying to shape and create a world for myself
Mhm.
that I feel comfortable in, but and also trying to share that with other people that are like me. But I like Desiire, our Flex, Paris, like you guys are all making this work, and even though this work isn't speaking directly to like the overall Black queer experience, we're speaking to our own experience. But it's like I feel like I'm with this like arsenal of Black queer artists that are moving forward and creating this amazing landscape of music and art with compassion and with lived experience and from our pain, and really trying to push forward this idea of like, it's like we just want to be seen. Do you know what I mean? It's like we just want to be seen. You don't have to accept me, but
Mhm.
I just want you to know that I'm here
Mhm.
and I'm not going anywhere. And I feel more empowered because I see you guys doing it too, right? So in the ways that we do, and yeah, like it's yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I need acceptance because, you know what, I need benefits. Let's
Okay.
talk about hold on.
Yes, yes, yes.
I might need a dual income because living in town is expensive. Okay. I'm gonna talk about it because I listen. You know, sometimes I'm looking at what I'm getting paid, and I'm like, you know what, yo, I gotta move up rates because, you know, I
Okay.
this all I'm an ally. Yes, yes, baby, give me
Don't pay
$1,000.
me.
Yeah, but I feel for me it's more respect. It's like respect me.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not just a figment of your imagination. I'm not
Agree.
like a demon
Mhm.
that, you know, the church is preaching that I am. I'm not.
Yeah.
And I also deserve love and care and of all things I deserve respect, you know. And I feel like we're all moving towards that with our art and with like the lyrics that we write, and you know, even putting in all the influences that we've collected in our minds and in our bodies, and bringing out and sharing through our work. And I'm so happy that, you know, through our example, people in our communities, even the communities that reject us to some degree, are seeing that there is power in us, you know, and we're slowly shifting people's views, and I guess educating them through living,
Mhm.
existing, you know. So yeah, I'm very thankful that you guys are all, you know, alive and thriving and doing your thing.
And killing it. And killing it.
That was incredible. This was the first time that Lydia and I were listening and learning alongside you. And I think we get what it is that we're doing here. This was beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us. Sou Sou number 8. You just heard Paris Unltd, James Baley, and Desiire in conversation and performance with our Flex, talking about the identity markers and the sounds that we take for granted, being Black, queer, pop-ish, R&B-ish, and it was a beautiful thing. Thank you once again for joining us today. You should know that Sou Sou is a little gem that could, inspired by a tradition in the Caribbean and in West Africa, where communities who may not have access to traditional forms of financial resources pool together the little bits that they have to form a pot that they rotate around the community until everybody has their fair share. We do that here at Sou Sou as well. Each episode is propelled by your generosity. not only in spirit and in attendance, but also money if you have it. If you would like to donate to the Sou Sou pot that we will then redistribute throughout the community, check the chat section. Luca, who's a key member of the Sou Sou fam, will direct you either to e-transfer or PayPal, and we'll take those funds and we send out a $150 micro grant for those who are in a jam at the moment or in straight up need. And if that's you, send us an email because we're here for you as well. Today, 100% of donations will go towards these micro grants because of the generosity of Next Door Records, our first sponsor who covered the artist fees, and we want to thank them for helping propel Sou Sou forward. We are checking ourselves with respect to whose money we accept, how we accept it, so that we could keep Sou Sou as real and grounded as possible. If you have any questions about today's sponsor or future sponsors, feel free to send us a note because we're here for you and we want to hear from you. And if the way you want to show support is just sharing a link, check the Instagram link in the chat as well and tell your friends, because we will be back next month with part 2 of today's conversation because they just had so much to say. They had so much vibes to share, so much music to share. It felt so nice. You want to do it again. But thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you soon. I'm Alana Stewart. We had Lydia Prasad, my co-host. Thank you, Tom, Gil, Luca Kaplowski. We're Sou Sou.